Greetings from the far side of the galaxy, I'm Fury, your host who's still putting out easy videos because Silksong isn't going on 100% itself. This video will primarily be about Asamo, but let me get a bit of news that I have to cover out of the way first. Remember in that last video how I said there was some force that always tries to make me look wrong and bad and stupid? Well, that force has struck again because guess what has a dumb little minigame now? The game's fine, it's like one of those Mario Party minigames except it doesn't have a time limit so it's not really that hard. I'm glad it's easy so at least we basically get free rewards. The next new thing in XXL Woofia I want to talk about is this, the Sausage Fest. Like I said before, this game is not subtle with its innuendos. It's basically just a way to throw some dice and get some more stamina, which is appreciated, and it's nice to have a bit more gambling in this game. And now for me to take advantage of that force that is definitely watching me, there will never be a woman in XXL Woofia. There will never be a woman in XXL Woofia. Now let's get to the bigger part of this video that I know you all clicked on it for. Let's talk about Houasamo again. There's a new event going on, well, not really going on, more like will go on, this coming Tuesday. Shaong is getting another limited unit because pretty privilege is a thing. But what's got everyone's attention with this game is actually the new character being added. That being Cinderella from the story Cinderella and Zooey Mama. This is honestly a genuinely inspired design, one of the best Asamo has, which is saying a lot because this is Houasamo after all. What's insane is that she's actually the most popular character from this event. On YouTube, it's her video that has the most views. So I think you can all agree with me here when I say, I need a little cougar in my life, I need a little cougar by my side, I need a little cougar in the sun. Again, this new event starts next Tuesday, so I really can't say too much about it here, but I can say that Houasamo is implementing a new feature, basically research file quest, whereby meeting certain conditions you can get extra info about a certain transient. I'm not sure if it'll be grandfathered in, where already existing characters will get these, but it's nice that Asamo is leaning into its strengths. Now moving on to the usual meat of this video, it's time to talk about some characters from Asamo. Which ones? I don't know, whichever ones pop into my head first. And the character that first popped into my head is Shaong. Probably because I literally just mentioned him like a minute ago. You should already know a fair bit about Shaong. He is one of the most popular characters in the game, and I did make an entire video about him way back in the day. He's a former warmonger who now works at Shinjuku Academy as a nurse. Blah blah blah, he likes to eat poison, blah blah blah, something about poisonous titty milk or something. The real strength behind Shaong is his backstory, because I do think it is one of the better ones in Asamo. It all begins with Nuwa, the exile from his homeworld of Harai. After she was insulted by an emperor, she began to use her artifact, that banner you see in his 4-star art, to cause wars and wreak havoc, to the point that she got exiled. Her artifact was then passed on to Shaong, because logically, he'd be the last person to use it to cause wars like she did. The banner could cause wars wherever it was waved. Rather than using it actively like Nuwa, Shaong used it reactively, using it to know wherever a battle would happen, thus he could head out to deliver aid quickly and efficiently. This means he's part of a small club of characters who actually have one of the exiled sacred artifacts in Tokyo. Naming, hopefully, them all off the top of my head to prove a point to no one, we have Seth, who has Seth's sacred artifact, Joltal, who has Quetzalcoatl's, Shaong, who has Nuwa's, Michael has Lucifer's, and yeah, that's all I can name off the top of my head. Oh, and Kamui! Damn, forgot one. That being Bursty, who has the sword from Lo, or Lu, however the fuck you say his name. The next character we'll do simply because I haven't covered them before, and I've always been meaning to do that, but I just never got around to it. Which is just a really long way of saying it's Babe Bunyan. Babe Bunyan's interesting because he doesn't just have one inspiration, rather he has two, with one being obvious and the other being more subtle. The obvious reference is to the cow to which he shares the name with, Babe Bunyan. For you foreign folks who aren't too aware of American folklore, one of the popular ones is that of Paul Bunyan, a giant logger and his blue cow Babe. This means his nature is actually fairly similar to Oz, a person in Tokyo whose base myth isn't actually enough to sustain their existence, and thus something else has been grafted onto them to make them more stable. This fact is suddenly referenced in his 4-stars research file, noting that even Perun can't engrave memories onto him because there's already something there. Babe Bunyan's second inspiration is where he gets his white fur, because in the Paul Bunyan myth, his cow is blue. What's been engraved onto Babe Bunyan is the white calf, which was inspired by a story from the Lakota people. To sum up the story incredibly quickly, the Lakota people were going through a crisis when they met a woman dressed head to toe in white buckskins. She taught them many of their most important rites, and one of the things she did was transform into different colors of cow, one of them being white. A cool fact I came across is that a white calf buffalo was spotted in Yellowstone National Park as recently as 2024. The next character I'd like to cover is technically a double feature, that being Kamui and Wen Kamui. To begin, they're from the world of Kamui Koten, which is based on Ainu mythology. The Ainu are native people located in Hokkaido, and Kamui is one of their words for God. It's why Horkyu Kamui is also called Horkyu Kamui, which translates directly into Howling God, i.e. Wolf God. Kimun Kamui, or sometimes Kim-un Kamui as in two separate parts with a hyphen, means mountain god since bears do live in mountains. Kimun Kamui are very prominent in Ainu culture, having entire rituals dedicated to them, which I won't get into now for the sake of time. The important thing to note is that Kimun Kamui are considered highly sacred, benevolent creatures, explaining Kimun Kamui's character in the game. And now we get to the other half of this character, Wen Kamui. Wen Kamui literally translates into evil god or a bear that eats humans. A fact that explains a whole lot about Wen Kamui and Asamo. It's very hard to find information about Ainu culture, mostly because they have an oral tradition, so a lot of it literally isn't written down. The next character we'll talk about will be Eolanac. Yes, that is how you say this guy's name. He's from the world of the Old Ones, and of course means he's from Lovecraftian mythology. Though he wasn't actually created by Lovecraft, rather he's created by a dude named Ramsey Campbell. Eolanac appeared in the story The Cold Print, which is all about a teacher with secret dark desires. And what makes him different from a lot of other characters from the mythos is that he's like Narlantotep, operating with a motive that's very understandable to humans, that being depravity. He's capable of possessing anyone who speaks or reads his names, contorting their body into a rotund, obese shape without a head and mouths on his hands. Asamo actually pulled pretty heavily from this guy's origin, to the point where it's clearly referenced in his research file. Even that part about being trapped behind bricks is something from the original story. Putting him in a host club is honestly an inspired way to adapt one of the most sexual creatures from the Lovecraft mythos. This video is still looking a little short, so why don't we do one more? I thought about it for a while and decided the last character we'll be talking about today is Ofon. He is from the world of Olympus, which, surprise surprise, is based on Greek mythology. Ophion's backstory in Asamo seems to take inspiration from Argonautica by Apollonius Rhodius. Per the myth, Ophion and his wife Eurynomy were one of the earliest generations among the divine, ruling Earth together. However, eventually they would be usurped and kicked out of heaven by their son Kronos. An event Asamo took even further with the exiling of Eurynomy, an event that affects Ophion even to this day in Tokyo. Honestly, the most fascinating things about Ophion is that he gives us one of the best looks into one of the exiles as a character. We know from Ephesus that she was kind and sweet, being his mother, but we also know from Ophion that she was not afraid to throw down. You know Ophion's broken fang? She was the one who did that. And we also do know what Eurynomy looked like since she's featured on the protagonist 5-star ult, being the one on the left featured with her scythe. The last detail I'd like to point out is that the egg sacred artifact Ophion has originally belonged to her, and she's the one who made Ophion with it, meaning all those personality defects he has aren't bugs, they're features she specifically requested. And that's that on that. What did you think of the video? Did you like it? I really think you should like and subscribe while I get to our Patreon shoutouts. For 3 stars, got special thanks to Choron, SkyKing64, 80 Somewhere, Arcana Face, or Child Venmus, or Luminciate, the good old days, and Stasi. For 4 stars, of McCoydes, Law, and Utterly Awe, the Fractal Incursion. And for our Super D2 special 5-star shoutouts, we have Hodar Lion, the new homestead. Thank you for watching, do be sure to like and subscribe. As always, this is Rose Fury signing out.